Hello and welcome. Welcome to Math CM, where you will learn math skills and life skills. So, tonight we're going to be treated with an interview of senior, I say senior software engineer, Mr. Elvis Efamba, a good friend of mine for over 21 years. So, Mr. Efamba, please tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us something, about your journey as an software engineer.
Well, first off, I appreciate the introduction, Ken. That was a very incredible introduction, so thank you for that. So as far as my journey as a software engineer, as Ken mentioned, I met Ken back in Prairie View, back in, I don't know, 1998, 90, yeah, around that time frame. It's been a long time, but I've always had the passion of dealing with computers. Computers has always been like my number one, well, my number two, kind of number one and number two. Video production and computer is like right there. But I've always had a great passion for computer, and I used to put computers together in high school. And going to college, college kind of exposed me to software engineer on how to write programs that run on the machine. So I end up graduating from Prairie View with a degree in computer engineering and technology. And while I was in Prairie View, I had the opportunity to work for Shell, the oil company. I did an internship with Shell for 2 years, and my internship basically trained me on how to become a software developer. So I kind of fell in love with that aspect of computers because computers is very broad. And to make a long story short, graduated from college, and I got hired at NOAA. A lot of people are more familiar with NASA, and NOAA is very competitive with NASA. NOAA stands for National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and they have an office called the Office of Education. And I got hired by the Office of Education to be a web developer. And over the course of me being a web developer, my title changes to IT specialist slash senior project software developer at OED, which I supervise two staff in regards to developing softwares that run on the internet. I think that's a pretty, pretty solid intro as far as what I've been doing, as far as what I'm doing now, basically. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Elvis. I want to let you know that you have actually done well with the opportunities presented for you. You have shared how you learned many things in college that prepared you. I also know that it did not begin in college, because I remember coming by your place one time, your parents' home, and you shared with me some of the projects that you worked on. I saw some old computers that you told me you were working on some network, even as a teenager. So like the story in the Bible with the man with talents, you did not do like the man with one talent that dug and hid his talent. You actually worked on your talent, and now you have many more. And so, Mr. Efamba, was there a recurring theme, a recurring math theme in your preparation for your career now at NOAA?
Absolutely. One of the fundamentals in math that I took is the structure on how to solve a problem. That's one of the big things that I consistently apply at my job. Um, software, the type of softwares that I develop at NOAA, it's not so much of a financial type of software. It's much more like a system that some of the staff in my office use to do their day-to-day job. So even though there's not like a lot of numbers involved in my system, one of the things that, like I said, I really picked up from math is approaching as a problem, or it's the step-by-step process. And to me, that's like the fundamentals of math. um in able to solve a problem and get it correct. So I do apply that same skill set when it comes to software development.
All right, all right. You know, we know that math actually plays a big role in many things. But Mr. Efamba, I know you shared a little of the answer to this question that I'm going to ask you now. But what is the role of math in your day-to-day projects? Can you expand more on that? The question really is, does math or its concepts play any role in your day-to-day tasks and projects? And so we have just before you answer though, I see someone here, Mr. Norton. Welcome, Mr. Norton. Thank you for stopping by. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Feel at home. Go ahead, light up that chat, share your thoughts. Yes, be a part of this. So, Elvis, take it away.
Absolutely, absolutely. The concept of math, which from my understanding is, it's a step-by-step approach. Meaning, if you have a math problem, first you got to understand the problem before you take step one, step two, and then continue on to be able to solve the problem. So that's like the fundamentals that I took when I am developing any type of system. I need to first understand what the system is, and then of course, apply the step-by-step approach, which is really like the main concept. Ken, I'm not sure if your camera is on. It's on my screen. It's like you just completely froze,
All right, not a problem.
but you can hear me fine, right? My voice is good.
You're good. You're good,
Okay,
Elvis.
okay. So yeah, on a day-to-day basis at my job, like I said, it's really understanding my task or whichever software that I'm working on, and then just apply the fundamentals of math, which, from my understanding, is the step-by-step approach. So that's one of the big things that I really gained from doing a lot of math in elementary school, high school, and college. And one of the things that I also try to well, it worked. It sort of did me some good, was that I kind of understood math at a very early age, and sort of locked down the fundamentals. And I always felt like math is one of those things that it basically like builds upon itself. Like once you learn the fundamentals, whatever stages that you are in math, you should be able to, you can basically apply the fundamentals, and you should be able to solve whatever problem come your way. So it's just that understanding and the step-by-step approach. I think that really helps me a lot.
All right.
I'm not.
Thank you very much, Mr. Efamba. You're right. There's something going on with my video. Let me just sort this out by doing this. Viewers, I'm so sorry for the inconvenience and the technical difficulty that I'm having right now. But Elvis, in the meantime, just before we actually continue, I'm going to ask you something. Um, I know you have spent some 12 years or more working with IT and programming. How much math is involved in the logics and the problem solving in the programming aspect of your work?
Everything is as far as logical, it's all math. Um, you know, um, I told one of my coworkers that works with me, because those certain times where he would say, oh, that's impossible to code. It's impossible to do this. Uh-oh, Ken is completely out. But I hope some of the
You're good,
viewers
man. You're
does.
good.
Okay. Well, sometimes he would say, oh, it's impossible. It's impossible to do that. I was like, okay. One of my things that I've always had was if it logically makes sense, if whatever we trying to code logically makes sense, because that's really math. Math is all logical. Then we can definitely code it. So I think programming is all logic, especially when it comes to software development, and that's basically that's math, because math is all logical. So
Thank you, Elvis. I was here doing some math, as we would say in Jamaica. I'm mathsing up the thing. My viewers, what happened, Brenda, is that something happened with my camera, so I have to think really quick how to sort it out.
There you go.
All right, so that's good. All right, listen, guys. Those of you who would actually watch the replay for this, do feel comfortable putting your questions, going ahead and commenting, sharing your thoughts. What do you think, generally about software engineering? And there is something in store for you towards the end, right? Towards the end. So go ahead and watch till the end. All right, so Mr. Efamba, thank you very much for sharing a little bit about your experience in IT. My next question is that I know you have worked extensively on management. What is your motivation to solve difficult problems? What's your motivation? Go ahead and tell us.
So, I think before I answer that, I think this is what I think, like, because you got me thinking about math when you told me we was gonna have this, and I was thinking really hard, like, okay, math, math, math. Math is pretty much everywhere. Like, if you understand the fundamentals, like life itself is like all related to that, you know? And it would make your life so much easier as a human being, you know? So the way I deal with my management style is something that I've been dealing with when I approach any kind of problem is first to try to understand, if there's a problem within the staff that I'm managing, I'm always trying to understand what is the issue, like what is the main problem, And that's really the concept of math. Like you're trying to figure out what you're trying to solve, right? And then from there, I'm starting to look at, okay, let me be the neutral person in this conflict. Then I start to basically trace back what happened, you know? And then from there, it's like, again, it's that step by step approach. Like, what happened? How was it handled? How did we get to this situation? And what do we do next? So my management skill is basically like that. It's like coming in, trying to understand what the problem is, and then trying to troubleshoot and trying to see how we can prevent that same issue from happening again in the future. So I think math is like basically everywhere if you really really think about it. It's just a lot of times people don't really understand, especially here in America, people don't understand math and they get frustrated and say, I hate math, I hate math. I'm like, yo, math is life. Like, really, if you think about it seriously and you understand the fundamentals, you can live your life that way, and it will be so much less stress to deal, especially with human beings and dealing with troubleshooting whatever you know so
You
yeah.
know, Elvis, when you talk about math, man, you talk about math being everywhere. I can't help but mention, the master of all mathematicians, the one who set this place in order. You know what I'm talking about? The water first, right? And then what? After the water, then you have the vegetation, right? After the vegetation, then you have life. Life. And then, a few days later, you have people that can talk and think and solve problems. We know that sometimes you don't necessarily use the math the usual way, like the algebra 1 or the algebra 2 or the calculus or the trigonometry. You don't use it exactly the same way. But
Absolutely.
like Miss Anderson mentioned in past live stream, and Miss Horton as well mentioned in past live stream, um, we use math every day. Even this evening, I took a trip back some years. Trust me, I went back some years. And let me tell you what I'm talking about. And so, I was filling some bottles. I needed to get some water. You understand?
Okay.
So I was filling
Okay.
some bottles outside. I'm in the country, right?
Right.
And, a little lad, a little young guy just came from school.
Mm.
And, I asked him if he wanted to help me fill the bottles, and he was delighted. He helped me. And so I asked him to take the bottles and put them on the step.
Mm.
It's a little 20-minute walk, and he was doing that. So I asked him, how many bottles have you taken so far? And he said, I said, I don't know. He wants to take about 3. I say, all right, you sure it's 3? And not 2, miss you carry each time.
Mhm.
My American folks and folks from other parts of the world. Oh, big up yourself, Kevin. I see you. Yeah, so with this young man, I asked him to think about, the lad was probably about 6. He was probably
Mm.
about 6, so he's very young.
Mm.
And he told, when I asked him to check, he told me that he counted by 3s.
Mm.
I said, but you can't have, you can't. I think he told me 9 eventually.
Mhm.
After a while, I asked him how much it was. He told me 9. So I say, all right, don't count by 3s yet. You get it? Count by 1. Let me count them one by one.
Mhm.
1, 2. Don't worry, no stress. Why
Mhm.
am I mentioning this? I'm mentioning this because even at a young age, some teachers scold the little lads
Mm.
unnecessary and too harshly and cause them to shut down, you know? And the little lad was smiling when I approached the situation like that. And he was counting and he was associating. You remember when we did calculus, right? And we
Mhm.
did we looked if a relation was a function and
Mhm.
whether it had one-to-one correspondence.
Mhm.
So that's what I did with him in a very simple way.
And that's the best
How many
approach.
bottles have you
Yeah,
taken?
that's the best
And
approach
let's
at
count
that
them with your
age.
fingers.
Yes.
1.
Yes. Yes.
Touch it.
Yes. Absolutely.
So my point is, educators, please do not scold your pupil unnecessarily harsh. Be gentle with them.
Yes.
If you know what I'm talking about and you are in the chat, let me know what you think about this particular point or any point that we
Yeah.
have covered so far.
I
Yes,
think
Kevin, I
that's a
see
good
you
point, Ken.
bigging up
Yeah.
Mr. Johnson. Yeah,
Yeah.
man, big up yourself.
Because as they get
Elvis,
older, yeah, that's a good point. Because as they get older, they're gonna remember those simplicity, those fundamentals, and that's what I do. Is I always try to break it down step by step, simple. Don't complicate things, especially at the early age. They don't need that kind of complication.
Elvis, you know, what sparked your interest in software engineering? I know you kind of alluded to things earlier, and I mentioned a little
Yeah.
as well. But what
So,
really sparked your interest? Go ahead and take it
man,
away,
I
Mr.
can tell you
Johnson.
this, Ken. Like you mentioned, I've been fixing computers since I was like 13, right? I went to high school. I was fixing it. I was building network at the house, and that was good. I was excited. And then I was playing video games at that time too. So I know video games is related to computers, electronics. So I was like, okay, I wanted to be a video game developer. I wanted to develop video games. And I went to at that time, I thought since video game is electronic, in my brain, I'm thinking electrical engineering folks are the folks that makes video game. So in my head, I'm thinking I need to study electrical engineering so I can get into coding electrical games, whatever. But that obviously, after doing some more research, I realized that electrical engineering folks don't really design no video games. So I was like, all right, forget about that. But when I went to PV, to Prairie View with you, um, I wanted to just do computer engineering. That was it. And our program was more like computer engineering and technology. So I looked into that and technology part, and I was like, okay, this is really cool. We get a chance to be exposed to C++, some of the computer science programming stuff, which was cool. And the way I sort of summarize our major when I would explain it to people, I said my major is more like a combination of core computer engineering, computer science, and electrical engineering. So I kind of always like look at, our degree or our major as that. So me with the computer background going to college, I was like, that's cool. The computer science side of things, which is the programming side, I was like, okay, this is interesting. And once I start learning the software, the C++, and I start to see that, wait a minute, so I can write a program that runs on my computer and have people use my program. And sometimes when people say, oh, this machine is slow, I hate this computer, it's slow. I'm thinking to myself, like, no, don't hate the machine, hate the programmer. You know what I'm saying? So, like, the machine is just a machine. It's going to execute whatever code that the programmer gives it to execute. And then you being the user, you have to use this thing. So if it's just slow or if it's crashing, it's not the computer, it's just a dumb machine. I think that's one of the definitions that we was introduced to in college. Say a computer is just a machine that executes code. So that really got me really thinking because I was like, man, that's interesting. So when I had the internship for Shell, they exposed me to web development because C++, I don't know if you can do web app. I'm sure you can do web app now with C++, but back then, C++ was more like a desktop application, the same thing with Java. But having a software that runs on the internet, I'm thinking to myself, like, that's more accessibility for people to use your system. That's number one. And then number two, you have complete control over whatever you building, So I always wanted to build a system that executes super fast, that would make the user, happy and say, man, I like this machine or I like this software. So that was my approach, is to solve people's problems, but do it on a bigger scale, which is the web, and then just make sure that they have a great user experience. And that's what I've been doing in
Yes,
my job at
yes.
Noah.
That's what I'm talking about. Hey, y'all, if you're new to Math CM, go ahead and click in that corner right there and click subscribe. Subscribe and click the notification bell for videos and live stream like this that will build your math skills and your life skills. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button if you have not already subscribed. And so, Elvis, I know that you are the owner of Vis Enterprise. As you would say back in the day, that boy E, intelligent E. All right, Elvis. So, what does this offer, and how can persons book your services? Go ahead and tell us.
All right, sounds good. Appreciate that. First off, my name is Elvis. So the Vis comes from the last three character of Elvis. And one of my schoolmate back in Prairie View that we played tennis together, he used to always just call me Vis, Vis, Vis. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. But when we came out of school, it took me about 5 years to get a job with my degree because obviously 9/11 happens and a bunch of companies was like not really bringing in IT folks at that time. So at that time, I was like, you know what? I was already fixing computers on campus and I was getting paid. So I figured, I can just start my own business by fixing computers, And when I came out of school, I had the software development background. So I kind of added that onto my service as well. So it's not just fixing people's computers or making sure your printer can print. Now it's like, hey, I can build you a website for your business. And back then, I would do a website for any budget. Whether you have $100 or you have, $500 or $1,000, I will make sure I customize your package to make sure you have a functioning website. So this enterprise sort of came from that concept of, if corporate America doesn't want me, I just create my own corporation. You know, I have the skill sets, I have the talents, I know how to talk to people and get business. So why should I sit on my butt and be crying and say, "Hey man, I have a degree, nobody wants to hire me"? No, I just create my own. So that's how we came into play. And then when I moved up here in Maryland, um, I had this job working for Best Buy at some Best Buy warehouse, and I told them about my situation, and they said, "Elvis, you have computer skills, and we're not gonna put you out there in the assembly line in the warehouse. We're gonna put you in the office with the ladies." Because I was the first guy that was in the office, and they wanted me to start billing the customers once the customers like order a big item and want Best Buy to ship it to their homes. So with my computer skills, I was in there building customers in the system. And from that job, I sort of met one guy that hooked me up with another guy that used to work for BET. This guy used to be a BET producer. He produced shows on BET, like Hits from the Streets. I don't know if people watch BET, but this is like in the 90s, late early 2000 ish. So I met Dante Phoenix, and I built him a website because he was running some modeling agency at that point, in Baltimore. And through him, I got a chance to meet a bunch of people, and that's when my price went up, you know. And then I kind of like start thinking like, okay, computer is great. I can build websites. I can fix people's machine. What else can I add into my company so I can make more money? So I end up started doing photography because I've always had a passion with camera, video work and photography. I took some classes in photography. Just makes so much sense. I add that onto my company, and I had to come up with a name that sort of summarize everything that I'm doing: photography, video, and web development. So I figured Vis Enterprise would be a good name, to kind of have the different things that I do under my umbrella. So, and that's what I do that on the side now, even though I still have my regular job for Noah. And the way people can reach me really is just to send me an email, and or they can check out. I also have a website which I need to revamp, but it's called Vis Entertainment Studios, and that really is like part of the is under the Vis Enterprise umbrella, and visentertainmentstudios.com. That's more of the like the filmmaking stuff. Um, so yeah, it's just an email, really.
All right. Hey, Elvis, thank you so much. You said something there that I want to really reiterate. Folks, I'm going to put, listen, guys, those of you who made it to a live stream, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. And I do see some questions in the chat for you, from Lionel, and he has two questions. I'll share those questions with you shortly. I want to verbally big up Cam. You know yourself. Big up yourself, man. Big up yourself. Enough respect. Here are the guys for me. All right. So Lionel asked earlier when you mentioned about the machine, he asked, Elvis, is it always the person and never the machine, though? Lionel is thinking a little bit deeper,
Okay.
and he's saying, is it the person or is it the machine? His exact question is, Elvis, is it always the person and never the machine? You remember when you mentioned,
yeah.
you know,
So if that question is related to software development, then yes, it is always the person. Well, I won't say a person because usually to develop a software, you need the software engineer, the person that's going to engineer the system. And usually most of the time that's the person that's like leading the software. So, because the machine is just computer, it reads zeros and ones. It read that's all. That's all it does. It have a CPU, has a RAM, got a hard drive, and the CPU just spins and just read the zeros and ones. That's really it. Now the software that this, what is a group of people that's working on it? They need to really think like the logic. It needs to make sense. If there's one person that's running the software now, what is gonna happen if 20 people log on to that website? I'm speaking of online website, online software. What's going to happen when 20 people log in simultaneously? Is the code going to be able to handle to execute 20 logins in less than 1 second? And how is the code treating the machine? Because if you don't structure your code, you don't have a logical simplified ways for your code to execute. The machine is going to try to execute that code. And if the code is like, say, like this long, right? And then you have somebody else that code is like this long. And both of those codes, they basically do the same thing. Let's say they just log someone into the system. This code right here, the computer has to execute this. You know what I mean? Compared to this one. So if you got 20 people that log in 1 second, the computer is trying to process this amount of code in 1 second. So eventually at some point, the computer might say, you know what? I'm going to crash. Okay? It's just too much code for me to run. I can't take all this stuff. But if someone codes like this, the computer say, man, I like that code. I can do 50 of that in 1 second, in less than 1 second. So it's really the human being that's creating the software. They need to really think on how to simplify things for the machine. Okay? So I hope that answered that question.
yes, thank you, Elvis. Thank you very much. I'll also add that, I understand completely what you're saying, Mr. Efamba. I want to also add kind of what Lionel is insinuating by his question. Sometimes persons are not apt, not skilled enough to use the
Yes.
machine.
Yes.
And
Yes.
in those cases, then he's alluding to maybe it's the person. But I
Okay.
want to submit to you that,
Yeah.
sometimes persons maybe from a different era and did
Yeah.
not grow up with certain machines. Like, for
Yes.
example, my grandmother, you understand?
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
and, older folks who, hey, they can tell you a nice story. Yes.
Yes.
And they
Yes.
can bake you a nice bread
Yes.
or cook you a
Yes.
wicked meal. It won't kill you
Yes.
though.
Well,
But it wasn't in their time. And sometimes it will be frustrating for them. But
yeah.
it's also true that some things aren't engineered properly.
Yeah. And
And
that's
you
why
can see that, I'm not going to take pokes at the big guys, like I
yeah.
won't say, but you get it. But
Yeah.
sometimes they release certain softwares and then they have to patch it.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
And sometimes that's just because for many, 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 many reasons.
Yeah.
So it's both ends.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be quick to actually say, it's the person,
Yeah.
a thorough assessment of the situation needs to be done.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you for your question. I see the
Yeah.
chats lighting up here. Just
I'm-
before I let you have another word on that, Elvis,
Uh-huh.
I see someone here says, oh, it's Lionel commenting on the diversity that you would have created, just in case corporate did not appreciate your expertise.
Thank you.
He made a comment on that.
Thank you.
And he said, that's a great statement. He loved that comment. Kevin said, very interesting. Miss Watts, big up yourself, Emily Watts. I haven't met you, but thanks for coming. Sean, big up yourself. Thanks for coming. Is joining from Jamaica. Hey, thank you all for making this live stream so sweet. And guess what? Those of you who are watching the replay, big up yourself too. Watch it to the end. Put your question there. And Elvis, that thing that I promised you before, I'm going to be putting your information. I'm going to be updating the subscription right below, right below. So guys, if you have not already subscribed to Math CM, go ahead, click in that corner right there. You will see a little icon and click subscribe. All right, so next in line, Elvis.
Yeah.
What would you say to a high school student who is considering software engineering as a career path? What would you say to them? Go ahead.
As far as a high school student who is interested in software engineering, first I would say don't get into it for the money. See if you are really passionate about helping people through software development. If that is your passion, then I think this would be a good fit for you. If you think you just want to get in there and make a lot of money, then you are going to be bored. It's not gonna work out. Let me put it like that. So, and as far as like educational, what you need to do to prepare yourself into it. When I was coming up, I spent a lot of times at the library because we didn't have a lot of free resources like it is now online. So I would say, I still like books. That's just me. Okay. I know a lot of people like videos and, attention span is really short. I like to physically read a book and I feel like when I'm reading a book, the information is just me and my brain and the book. And I tend to understand things a lot better that way. But I would say educate yourself, whether it's a book or videos online or any resources on the internet, just so you can be familiar with some of the process and concept in software development. Okay. And then, proceed with school. Go to college, spend 4 years, or so, get your degree, so you can not only be well grounded with software development, but also grow as a young, person. Because that's one of the things you're going to get from college is the growth and of course the academic as well. And then, after that, trying to see if you can get an internship while you're in school. And then after that, of course, apply for a job. Now, if you are more interested in like software developer, because there's a difference. There's the engineer and then there's the developer. So if your job, if you really like, hey, I just want to code stuff, then my advice is as a developer, there's really no need to like go to college to be able to learn how to code. Because college is going to teach you how to think. And if you're going to be an engineer, that's part of your brain. You have to think. You have to be able to solve problems or situations through software. So you will learn that in college. I don't know if any boot camp or training program is going to teach you how to think. And but if you just say, hey, I just want to code, then sure. Straight out of high school, you can sign up for some coding program, boot camp online, and learn how to code, and you can easily get a job as a coder. And you basically going to be working for someone that's a software engineer that's managing the project, and you can work your way up from there. So you may eventually become an engineer, but it's going to take time for you to work your way up. But from a college degree standpoint, it's a lot, easier for companies to say, hey, you have a degree, you can think, you have the technical skills, you can code if you want to. It's a lot easier for them to put you in a position where you can manage other coders or so-called developers.
All right. So, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. The multi-million-dollar answer. Yes, 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 yes. And so y'all, if you are truly enjoying this particular live stream, or if you are getting value, go ahead and hit the like button. Only hit it once though. It should be opaque, not transparent. So go ahead and hit that like button. All right, so I see some persons joining in. I see Susan Kaplan. Welcome, Susan. Thanks for coming. Hey, I'm really, really happy to have you. And Myron Bryn, welcome as well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And I see Brian. Big up yourself, Brian. Thanks for coming as well. Hey, y'all. This has been truly wonderful. And if you want to see more like this, I tell you, you got to click subscribe. You won't be disappointed. We have clean. What did I say, Elvis? Clean.
Clean.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We got clean content that
And
will
great
expand
education.
your mind.
Yes.
It's not gonna bust your head. Clean content. All right, so Elvis, what would you say to a college student? You kind of summed it up for the high school student. You gave the full trajectory through that part, even all the way up to engineer, depending on the path that is taken. But what I want to ask you to expand on is, what would you say to a college student who thinks that engineering is too difficult to pursue? Listen now. You know, as you would say on the campus or in the States, you would say, well, let me do Jamaica first. It's enough for me. It's enough for me. Or you know, as you would say it, or some of your friends in the States would say it, or some of our friends in the States would say, I ain't feeling that.
Yeah, that ain't for me.
No, I ain't feeling that.
Yeah.
And the guys from Bermuda would probably say, of course, if you know a lot of Bermudian friends, you may come across one that may say, that's out for me, bye. Did I get it right, y'all? Anybody from Bermuda here? You know, thought me out. Let me know. Kevin, you love it. Yeah, big up yourself. Big up yourself. Yes. Also, go ahead and click the like button. Why am I saying this? Why am I saying like? Why am I saying subscribe? Why am I saying all these things? Hey, there's something in this for Math CM. Yes, you look up here, you see our website, right? Let me see it. Yes, there's a website up there. Check us out. All right, so what's in it for you? When you like, when you comment, when you share, YouTube actually propels the video out, the content. And so if you want persons to enjoy this particular video and the others like it to come, go ahead, light up the chat with your thoughts. Let me know your position on math in what you're doing, even as gainful employment, or even if you're not employed. The question is simply, how do you use math? Just type something in the chat. Something simple, something simple. Yes, and while you're typing that, Elvis, I'm going to ask our viewers to share their question. Ask Elvis whatever you would like. Ask him a question or two and type it in the chat. Type your question in the chat and I'll read it for you, Elvis, and you can answer. But Elvis, I tell you, man, it's been truly a joy to speak with you again in this kind of fashion. You know, I really appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate that. So to respond to the question that you had asked, what would you say to college students who think that engineering is too difficult to pursue? I say if you have a logical brain, meaning you think logic, which is really, again, that's math to me. If you have that kind of brain, then engineering is for you. You should be fine. But if your brain doesn't operate that way, then you should find something else. Okay. Okay, it's that simple because I know a lot of people that graduated with us that don't have a job. And it's not that, there's no jobs. It's just they can't get through the interview. And some of them says some of the sample, technical stuff, they can't get through it. And I'm like, yo, didn't you take C++? Didn't you pass that course? Yeah. And then what's the problem here? But, so don't do it for the money. Um, Again, if your brain is not logical, find something else. Because not everybody can do everything. But if you think logically on how to approach any type of situation, it could be, again, to me, this is math. It could be with numbers. It could be with, a software development. It could even be with a personal relationship, husband and wife. If you have a logical brain, believe you me, it would solve you so many headaches. Okay. So that's my approach, Ken, with
Yeah.
that question.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You touch on something there. I'll just make one tiny comment. Hopefully, I don't get in any trouble though. I'll be very careful because I know we're we're live. On the relationship part, for those who choose the how would I say it, the path of wedlock. For those who choose the path of wedlock, right? Which is, as you know, marriage is a biblical thing, right? I know it's a big thing, but it's facts. You understand? And you know, we are different. We're different as male and female. We complement each other, and it helps us to grow. I've grown significantly, in my relationship, and get you, it wasn't bad. It's not bad in any way, but it's a wonderful thing. It have a way of polishing the man, and it has a way. Maybe somebody in the chat here can tell us something about. I see someone lighting up some questions here. What's that? Here, girls want everyone, what's this? I'm so sorry. Let me try and read this. This is interesting. Naked H, what's this? Here, girls want everything, even you, mercy. Hey, the chat is interesting. It's so sad, but on this channel, we will touch on some of the life skill issues. And I promise you, I may have, an expert on the relationship aspect of things to come on, and we could have a chat about these things. But, society has changed negatively in some aspect. And, the beauty that was designed initially, is not carried out in its fullness. And of course, everyone will not necessarily have to get married, because, after all, there were eunuchs in the Bible, and there were some that made themselves eunuchs, and there are some that, do whatever. All right. So, and of course, there are some who are noblemen who maintain themselves and carry out themselves well. All right, so sorry for that digression. Sorry for that digression there. All right, so Elvis, are there any final words? Do you have any final words for us? Let us have your final words.
So I don't have any like super final words, but I was just thinking about the question that the viewer had asked before. Is it a all man or all machine? And I think my approach, my response to that was more like I was looking at it from a software development standpoint. But I think another way to also look at it is from a user interaction standpoint. And from a user interaction standpoint, not everybody's familiar with computers. So, you can't really blame the machine on that perspective because some people are not just, they're not familiar with it. So they don't know, you know. But as a software developer or software engineer, you should always think about, you know, the machine as something that's going to be running zeros and ones. So that, and then you should think logically with your system on how can you help the machine to like just execute your code so that the user that's using your software can be able to get or do what they need to do. And most of the time, when we develop a it's not most of the time, it's all the time. When we develop a software, we also prepare a documentation on how to use our software. So on the user interaction side of things, if someone don't care about your documentation and they're trying to use your software and they're running into all kind of headache, they're gonna blame the machine. Again, that's user interaction, right? So we always do a documentation, and hopefully, as a software developer, you want to make sure that your documentation is user friendly for a non-technical person that's going to be using your machine or running your system on a machine. So, um, but yeah, from a software development standpoint, like I said, just keep it simple. Apply some of the basic concept in math, and you should be fine. And for educators that are teaching some of these young folks in math or engineering, my advice is like Ken gave his example earlier, is just keep it simple with these young people because they're going to remember the fundamentals when they are young, and as they get older, they would always go back to those fundamentals on how to solve any potential problems or stuff that they're dealing with. Because I know for me, that's how that's how I was able to excel in my position where I am now. Is some people say, Elvis, you're a genius, you're pretty smart. I'm like, I have the same brain like everybody else. But over the course of the year, I was like, okay, I do things logically, which, and then step one, step two, step three, and at the end of the day, I end up solving a problem or ends up creating an application for someone, and they really appreciate the end result. So I just say, again, teachers, educators, parents, keep it simple with your kids. That way they can understand the fundamentals. So that's pretty much it, Ken.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you once more, Elvis. Thank you so, so much. This has been truly, absolutely wonderful. I thoroughly appreciate every single moment. I appreciated the viewers, the watchers, even those who will watch later. Big up yourself, as my friends in Bermuda would say. And so, are there any any big takeaways that you would like to share? If you have not said anything in the chat, are there any takeaways that you would want to leave? So I'm going to ask that you actually go ahead and give me a second. Yeah, man. No, I thoroughly appreciate this one. I
Nah,
thoroughly
it's all good. It's
appreciate
all
it.
good. I think you're doing a
Well,
wonderful
so
job.
thank you for watching and see you in the next video. This
Ciao.
was really, really good. Those in live stream and those who will watch afterwards. Thank you so, so much.
Bye. You stopped the live stream? Uh-oh, we still live, Ken.
Yeah, it's end.
Did you stop
It's
this?
finished.